fellow coffee consumers and crime connoisseurs. Welcome to the second episode of Mugshot Mornings, where we explore true crime one sip at a time. As always, I'm your host, Sydney, and on today's episode, we'll be discussing the Jennings 8 that took place in Jefferson Davis Parish, Louisiana. So this is an unsolved mystery of 8 women that were murdered in Jefferson Davis Parish, Louisiana from the years of 2005 to 2009. This one was requested by my good friend Skyla, so shout out to Skyla. She's also helped me a lot format this podcast and prepare for this podcast. Also, this hits pretty close to home because I'm technically from Louisiana. I went to school there, high school, college, and grad school. My parents are there. I have a lot of family there, still friends that live there. This, where we live, is still a couple of hours away from where this took place, but I still visit there frequently. This investigation revolves around a marginalized group of women, whether that is the color of their skin or their careers. A lot of them were sex workers who were murdered after they were missing for a couple of days. And still to this day, these murders are unsolved, but there are a few theories around of what happened, which I will obviously get into later. But however, over the course of 4 years, each woman wound up dead in the same way, which led to people speculating if there was a serial killer or something much darker. So, okay, before we get into the case, as always, we're going to discuss what we're sipping on. So, today I have a coffee that I made, and it's not my own, I don't want to say my own recipe, but it's something that I kind of made up, if that makes sense in any way. So I made a honey cinnamon latte with almond milk today. Normally I use oat milk, but I tried almond because I'm getting low on oat milk. It is so good. So the key to whenever you're making an espresso for your coffee, for your latte specifically, you can do hot or ice with either of it, doesn't matter. Do not put the cinnamon whenever you're mixing the espresso. So just put the honey in the espresso mug. Let the espresso drip on top of it. Stir it up, then pour it over your ice and your milk, and then put honey on top of it. No, cinnamon on top of it. And then you have a honey cinnamon latte. I made this for my dad this morning for Father's Day, and he actually really liked it. Okay, so I did have someone explain to me that they wish that last episode I would have discussed more of where I was. So I guess I'll get into that too. So I guess the coffee talk will probably be about like what I'm sipping on, what all ingredients in it, how freaking good it is, and then also like life updates. So maybe that is what it will start off with. Just for now, I may end up turning it into like another segment. I just haven't thought of one yet. So anyways, what happened was, I'll try and make it short and sweet so that way we can get to the story and people aren't like, oh my god, shut up. So what happened was when I started Crimes, Cults, and Conspiracies, and I only did like 4 videos and that, we were living in another place in Arkansas. I'm not going to give it away so that way people don't find out who I am and where I live and like all things scary. We were living in a like northern part of Arkansas and we were really unhappy and things got pretty bad. Not between, me and Aaron, but it got pretty bad to the point where we were just really, really, really depressed individually, which made it really hard to film. And then also on top of that, like, we were in the process of moving and trying to move back home, or at least like, I literally just inhaled cinnamon somehow, but just in case audio listeners don't know what happened, I just almost died. We ended up moving in with his parents for like a month and a half. Then we bought a house, which is what I'm in right now. This is my office in my house that I own. Isn't that really cool? So we ended up buying a house and then I finished school. Oh, we got married. Sorry. By the way, we were engaged when Crimes, Cults, and Conspiracies. Now we're married. Isn't that cool? I think that's really awesome. We bought the house and then I finished grad school for my master's and then I applied for my doctorates and I got in and then we were going to move to Dallas. So we were preparing to sell the house. Things didn't work out in the way that I wanted it to when it came to moving to Dallas. If I went to grad school, We would have had to sell the house, and it was going to be really hard to do because we only been in it for like a year. And then also Dallas is obviously very expensive. The school that I was going to was very expensive. I wouldn't have been able to work for 4 years, and then you do an internship in your 5th year along with your dissertation, and so I wouldn't have been able to do, like, this and the things that I really wanted to do. I wouldn't have been able to work in one of the most expensive cities, and Aaron wouldn't have brought in all the money, and that is just not something that we can do right now in this economy. We just can't. So I ended up not going. I didn't take even my scholarship that I was offered for my doctorate program, which it is absolutely nothing against this doctorate program at all. I absolutely loved it. I got into the Chicago School of Professional Psychology and at their Dallas location, and I was very pumped to go, but it just made more sense to not go. I still plan on trying to find a doctorate program right now. It's just not in the cards, and I'm perfectly content with that. I did get a job. It was something really cool that someone had said that you should mention. When I first started my YouTube channel to do like true crime, I was in undergrad with criminal justice, and then I graduated my master's with forensic psychology, and now I work for a forensic psychologist, and it's really, really, really cool. If y'all saw me, I'm not picking my nose at it. Just leave me alone. It's really cool. I'm really excited. I love my job. I love my supervisor. I do a lot of DSM training and stuff like that where I can properly diagnose people. And it's just, my life has been really good. And then also someone said something about, I should talk about like what happened with the camera. Let me just tell you how hard it's been to set up this podcast, truly. So I tried with my old camera. I had a Canon Rebel T7. That camera takes really good photos, does not transfer the photos well, but takes really good photos on top of just photography. And it was super hyped up, so I bought it, and it had no video autofocus. No video autofocus. And it was really hard to sit down and film, and then also, like, the lens that comes with it is so big, so I was just zoomed in so much, and it had no blurry background. It was just, like, not a good video camera. I sat down to film the first episode that is already uploaded. My iMovie deleted all of it. Deleted all hours of editing that I had put in. I had to re-edit in 2 days. So 2 days before I uploaded it, I had to re-edit that entire video, audio, everything. I had to re-edit it. For this episode, I've already filmed, but my microphone wasn't on at all, and it was connected to the camera. So the camera wasn't picking up any audio at all because this one wasn't actually turned on. So I filmed for an hour and 45 minutes. Didn't get any audio at all. And it was really close to something that we had to do, so we had to leave, and I didn't get to finish filming. So now we're back, and I checked the audio, I checked everything, and it should be working. I ended up having to go buy like an $80 hard drive just to upload all of my footage, so that way nothing would be deleted. I had an external hard drive that had the backup. Yeah, it was insane. So anyways, I've had 2 people reach out to me from last video saying that the fly on the camera cracked them up. That is probably one of my favorite things I've ever edited, because where did that come from? Okay, so we're just gonna dive into this case, this unsolved murder case. It is a doozy, and y'all come up with your own theories. Of course, I would absolutely love to hear your theories. There's only really 2 that is around this theory, but possibly more. You never know. So we will just start with this case. So this case starts in 2005. On May 20th, 2005. Jerry Jackson was getting his fishing boat ready on a bridge over the Grand Merle Canal in Jennings, Louisiana, which is located in Jefferson Davis Parish. It is in South Louisiana, almost directly in the middle of Lake Charles and Lafayette, and has a cultural divide. One side is upper class with white-collar positions and occupations, while the other side is very much blue-collar and oil field style jobs. And for anyone who doesn't know this, Louisiana Louisiana does not use counties, they only use parishes. Louisiana is the only state in the USA to use parishes, so it's the same thing as counties, except, Jerry started prepping his fishing line and dreamed of hopefully catching white perch or bass. Jerry is about to cast his line when he notices something floating in the water. He fully believed at first that this was a mannequin, as he had just heard on the news earlier that there was someone stealing mannequins from stores. He laughed it off until after a closer look, he realized that flies were swarming the mannequin-like figure. He thought to himself, mannequins don't attract flies. He pulled out his phone and he called the police, and only 10 minutes later, he watched as police officers pulled what actually was a human body out of the water. It was a Caucasian woman, no older than 30, still clothed. She was petite, around 104 pounds, and a little over 5 feet tall. A toxicology report was completed and it determined that she had antidepressants, cocaine, and alcohol in her system. Also, her blood alcohol content was a 1.6, which is 2 times over the legal limit. This led investigators to believe that she had likely died from drowning or asphyxiation. Authorities ran her fingerprints and she was identified as 28-year-old Loretta Chason, a local sex worker. Loretta had battled a cocaine addiction and she also did not have the best marriage with her husband of 5 years. She was known to frequently disappear to get her fix with the substance or engage in sex work, but she always came home to her husband and her children. Her husband stated that the last time he had seen her was 5 days before she was found dead. She came home, asked for cash to buy food, and left. The last time she was found alive was the morning of May 17th, where she was spotted getting into a truck with a local pimp named Frankie Richard. Now, it is spelled like Richard, and I also know someone with the name that's spelled just like Richard called Reichard, but in videos I heard Richard, so if I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry. I've heard different pronunciations of this man's name. They were seen at a well-known brothel called the Boudreaux Inn, which looked like a motel. This was a spot that she frequently engaged in drugs or sex work, including 2 other sex workers and later victims, Laconia Muggy Brown and Nicole Gilroy. Not even 1 month later after Loretta was found, on June 18, 2005, a group of boys were out in the swamps catching frogs, or as we in Louisiana call it, frog gigging. The group of boys spotted something floating in the water, and it was a dead body. The boys called the police and they arrived to retrieve the body of a 30-year-old black woman named Ernestine Daniels, a fellow sex worker. It took 2 months to positively identify Ernestine's body due to how decomposed it was. There was a long incision across her neck, her hands were badly bruised, and at first she was unidentifiable. Ernestine had been missing for 2 days. She had a similar background to Loretta. She battled with substances, had a rocky marriage, and she engaged in sex work. Ernestine's sister, Jessica, later explained that in 2004, the two were walking home and an unmarked police car pulled up to them. She explained that the officer knew her sister and brought up her sex work, substance use issues, and he called her names. It was an overall very racist encounter. She noted that this officer told them that the next time he came across the 2 women, he would kill them. Seeing it as an officer was threatening them, Jessica called the police station to make them aware that one of their officers had threatened them earlier, but she was not taken seriously. Apparently, whoever she spoke to on the phone laughed in her face and said that they would not be filing a report. So after Jessica realizes that her sister had tragically just been found deceased, she thought about this encounter and thought maybe it was this officer. The last time Ernestine was found alive was on June 16, 2005. She was spotted with 2 clients, Byron Jones and Lawrence Nixon. Police added these 2 men to the top of their list of suspects. Lawrence's wife told police that she had potential evidence as well. The night of Ernestine's death, both Lawrence and Byron arrived at the home with a blood-soaked garbage bag. The teenage daughter also told police that her father came home and was covered in blood. Months later, in early 2006, the two men were arrested and charged with second-degree murder, but the police did not do a thorough investigation of the home until 15 months later for further evidence. Of course, the police found no evidence and eventually dropped the charges on both men because of insufficient evidence, which obviously is very confusing and concerning because, of course, over a year after the arrest and after the murders have taken place, the house had probably been cleaned multiple times, and they're just not going to find any evidence because the house literally probably was cleaned up of all of the evidence, even if it was unintentional. But either way, these men did not go to jail for this murder. It's alleged. We don't even know if they did do it, but, I don't know. It's just weird. It's a weird situation. So, March 18th, 2007, a third body was discovered in a canal. The victim was naked, young, Caucasian, and also a part of the sex worker scene. Her name was Kristen Gary Lopez. Her body had no visible markings that would indicate she was killed by stabbing or gunshot, so a cause of death was not determined at the scene. She was only 21 years old and was last seen on March 5th. Like Loretta, friends believe that she was just out on a bender. She had a history of drug abuse on top of working as a sex worker. She had an intellectual disability and would often smoke crack with her father. In May 2007, a fourth victim was another young Caucasian sex worker, and she was found nude in crawfish ponds. She was later identified as 26-year-old Whitney Dubois. She also engaged in sex work and drug abuse, just as the previous victims did. However, she had a high blood alcohol content, and her face was badly beaten and bruised. Now, police should be suspecting that all four women with similar backgrounds are coming up missing, and this should be a red flag because maybe this is a potential serial killer. But as they dug more into the investigation, one name kept being brought up and who was someone who was mentioned earlier, the local pimp Frankie Richard. Now, Frankie and Kristen Lopez. It was said that he was basically her father figure. Frankie had done business with all four victims. Frankie was also a drug dealer on top of getting his employees to engage in sex work at the strip club that he owned. Frankie was brought in as he saw himself on the news as a wanted man for Kristen's death or maybe any other victim so far. He told police that he did have a violent past and crack addiction and often had sex with his female sex workers, but he had nothing to do with Kristen's murder. May 16th, Frankie was arrested along with his niece, Hannah Connor, who happened to be a lifelong friend of Kristen's, for the murder of Kristen. However, shortly after their arrest, they were released as police said there was not enough evidence to arrest them. The only piece of evidence that they had was he was involved in their sex work careers. Frankie was also in rehab during one of the murders, and they believed that there was only one person responsible for all four deaths, so Frankie was ruled out. May 29th, 2008, 23-year-old Laconia Muggy Brown was found. She was fully clothed and had wounds around her head and neck. However, she was found on a rural road and not in a body of water as the previous victims were found. Her body was doused in bleach. Muggy's grandmother stated that before she was found, she had last seen her granddaughter the previous Friday when Muggy told her that she was going to meet a friend for dinner. Muggy never returned. Muggy sadly had fallen into the wrong crowd and was frequently seen at the Boudreaux Inn participating in substance use, specifically crack. In August of 2008, only a few months after Muggy was found, another young female went missing. 24-year-old Crystal Shea Benoit Zeno. 2 weeks after she went missing, a group of hunters spotted her body on a river. She was naked but badly decomposed and was near just skeletal remains. Her body had to be identified through DNA testing, and she also worked as a sex worker and participated in drug use. 2 months later, on November 15th, 2008, the youngest and seventh victim's body was found. 17-year-old Brittany Gary. Her cause of death was believed to be asphyxiation. She was cousins with the fourth victim, Kristen. She was last seen at a dollar store on November 2nd, and in December of 2008, the sheriff Ricky Edwards established a task force to thoroughly investigate the murders due to it being a common offender. The eighth and final victim was Nicole Jean Gilroy, a 26-year-old sex worker. She knew the previous victims and knew that young female sex workers were being targeted by a potential serial killer. In a later statement, her mother noted that Nicole refused to plan her upcoming 27th birthday because she believed that she would not make it before then. Wow. Heartbreakingly, she was right. In August of 2009, her body was found dumped on the side of the interstate in a nearby parish. A toxicology report stated that traces of cocaine and painkillers were found and believed her death to be asphyxiation. Her mother explained that her daughter Nicole was very vocal in the belief the police were involved in the previous death somehow. Now that there was an eighth victim, they were labeled as the Jeff Davis 8, otherwise known as the Jennings 8. All women were painted as individuals who engaged in a high-risk lifestyle due to their sex work and substance use, aka marginalized, targeted, the stigma around them, it's just disgusting. Families of the victims explained that the police never came to question them, and it seemed as if they didn't care. It is very apparent that they did not take this investigation seriously, as they waited until there were 7 victims dead before they created a task force. Before the Jeff Davis 8, there were 12 other unsolved homicide investigations since the 1990s. Many citizens explained that police had always been caught in scandals and were also very heavily involved in the drug scene in the area. Many people believed that this was the workings of a serial killer, but many others believed that this was just corruption and a cover-up by police. The chief investigator of the sheriff's office name was Warren Gary. It was discovered that he had bought a white Chevy Silverado from an inmate named Connie, who was an associate of Frankie's. Warren Gary later cleaned and sold the truck for a profit, possibly erasing any evidence. Multiple people believed that this was the truck that was the same truck that had been at the crime scene of Kristen Lopez. Because of this, Gary was fined $10,000, cleared of any criminal charges, and became the head of the evidence room at the sheriff's office, which he already showed that he can't really handle evidence well, so that doesn't make any sense, of course, because he, whatever, but that's not funny. However, he was later shot and killed by his 17-year-old grandson in 2016. I didn't mean to laugh. I don't even know why I did that, so just in case you hear it, I'm so sorry. I'm not a bad person. Jesse Ewing, a Jennings police officer, did not like this situation and believed that there was a lot of weird things going on. He interviewed some people who knew Frankie along with the previous owner of the truck, and everyone said that yes, Warren Gary was doing that to destroy evidence, point blank period. So with this evidence, Jesse hands it over to a private investigator who then hands it to the FBI. Jesse ends up getting arrested for obstruction and is later fired from his position. Another man, Danny Berry, was a jailer at the Jefferson Davis Parish Jail and had been accused of randomly abusing the inmates for no reason. Witnesses report that Danny and his wife Natalie were consistently seen picking up sex workers to come to their home to have sex. One witness alleged that Brittany Gary was once seen getting into a vehicle that was driven by Danny the night that she was last seen alive. A New Orleans-based writer, Ethan Brown, wanted to conduct his own investigation of the Jennings 8 in 2011. He interviewed families, suspects, people a part of the task force, and also carefully examined public records. Ethan uncovered evidence that steered him away from believing that these women were killed by a serial killer, and he leaned more towards a police cover-up. He found out not only all victims knew each other, but they all had served as police informants. Many family members of the victims said that before the women had disappeared, they were frightened as they couldn't get protection from the police. Frankie also had multiple charges on him, such as rape and murder charges that were later dropped from his record, which makes you wonder why they are covering up Frankie and helping him. So, there is not much to this. There's nothing has been done about this case since 2009, after the last body was found, and that guy later on doing an investigation in 2011, understanding that Frankie was being held by police, having charges dropped. Warren Gary, even though he was killed, which obviously is very sad, nobody just like deserves to be murdered. Well, that's not funny. There are some people where you're kind of like, yeah, like Hitler, I guess. There are a lot of weird things that the police obviously have done, and police have this, they obviously have this thing when it comes to just power. It's not that they're like power hungry or anything, but it's just weird. And I think it's very safe to say that it's weird that there's a lot of things that police had done to cover up. And this is Frankie. Like, he's not even like a white collar guy. He owns a strip club and like is a pimp. So why is he being protected? I don't think Frankie had anything to do with it. There's really not much more to the story that I could find. There probably is somewhere, but I have, let me see, 1, 2, 3. I have 7 different resources that I have for this case. And I know that if you watch, I first heard of this case from A Murder with My Husband, their YouTube channel, and also they have a podcast, but I found them on YouTube. So I will link their video down below. They did a really good video on this as well. This is just, it's wild. I mean, I lean more towards police. I definitely think I don't even know if even police were the ones that were killing. Maybe they were protecting a serial killer. I don't know. But I definitely think that police know more than what they're leaning on. Definitely. That's not even like a, you know what? I'm not going to say that because I'm not trying to get fined for saying something wrong. This is all alleged, by the way, that police are involved. This could be the working of a serial killer. I mean, there was one in Little Rock of people. This guy downtown just went up to people and just stabbed them out of nowhere. Don't even know why he did that. Wasn't ever proved to why he did that. I don't even think he was ever even caught. So there are a lot of serial killers that have not been caught yet. I mean, we just caught, the Golden State Killer, like, a couple years ago. Yeah, I wish that I could give y'all a conclusion to this case. I want to know what you think. Do you think that this was the workings of a serial killer? Do you believe that this was a police cover-up? Do you think the police were involved in any way? Do you think the police were the murderers? Or do you think the police were protecting a murderer? What do y'all think? Do y'all think it was Frankie? Maybe it was even those 2 guys that they dropped charges after his house was cleaned? God, you don't even know. I really wish there was more to the story that I could give you guys, but this is still unsolved. If y'all have any even clues or like, I don't even know. Let's look up, are the police, let me use good grammar. Are the police still searching for the killer of the Jennings 8 in Louisiana? Let's look that up. Okay, 2019, Jeff Davis 8. That's the earliest I see. I mean, this is something that I saw. This is actually one of my resources. Nope, it just literally ends with, this is just a mystery. Wow. Ooh, okay. I'm going to read this for y'all. This is from A&E. It says, while ineffective police work isn't proof of corruption, the relationship between the Jennings law enforcement and the murdered women raises eyebrows. Several of the women had clients in law enforcement. Loretta Shason Lewis's cellmate told Brown that Shason Lewis had a sexual relationship with a jail warden, Terry Gilroy, and that the pair had sex in the cell. According to Brown, a Jefferson Davis Parish task force assigned to the case was informed by several witnesses that one of the parish's deputies, Danny Berry, regularly solicited prostitutes from his police car, including several of the victims. Danny Berry is the one that allegedly beats up all of the inmates for no reason. Then there's a theory that the case ties to Leonard Crochet, a drug dealer who was unarmed when he was shot and killed by an officer during a raid. The first couple of years, at least when I was working on this, I was constantly told that all of the women, or at least most of the women, were at the Leonard Crochet shooting. Still, yeah, it ends with, this is a mystery. God, I just wish that people would look into this, and I know that they are not because of it because of them being already like a marginalized group of women. There were 2 African American women. The other 6 were white, but still struggled with substance issues and also had to make money by using sex work. Yeah, I could go on I could go on complaining about this case, not murdering. I read murder as soon as I started speaking. There is absolutely nothing more to this case. There is a really good documentary that you can watch. It is called Murder in the Bayou, and it is on Hulu, Paramount, Amazon, and Showtime. So, if y'all want to watch further or research further, I have some sources down that are the main sources that I had for watching this. I did watch Murder in the Bayou on Hulu to help me with this case as well, but most of the stuff in that documentary was a lot of it I had researched anyways. So if y'all have any theories, if y'all have any information regarding this case as well that you know about, I will link down below who to call, the number to call, to hopefully solve this case. As of right now, it is still just an unsolved investigation. It doesn't show that it's an open investigation right now. I don't think it's closed, but it's just a cold case at this moment. If there's anything that y'all would like to add, please post them in the comments. Again, I still want to hear feedback of how to improve this because I really like sitting down and doing this for you guys. I love getting to sit down and film, and I really enjoy editing, and I love being able to do this podcast. I'm very interested in true crime and all things creepy. So if there's anything that y'all would like to add to help this case, if y'all want to hear a case, y'all please comment them down below as well. But other than that, I think that is it for me today, guys. I wish that I could give you some answers to this case, but I just can't. It's just a lot of speculation. So yeah, if there's anything else that y'all would like to hear, again, post them in the comments. Thank you so much for listening to the second episode. I hope you stay tuned for the third and for the rest of forever. Be sure, if you're on YouTube, to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. And if you are audio listeners, be sure to rate this podcast 5 stars so it'll be pushed out for other people to enjoy. I know a lot of people that are listening are just family and friends, but I appreciate everybody no matter what. I'm very thankful for y'all for tuning in. And yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.